three of these characters share one thing that puts them ahead of everybody else. They can destroy weapons.
From the time I was young, I knew this day would come. Mama, she said, son, you'll always be on the road. Your daddy was a man people wanted dead. Now that storm's coming for you, a price hanging on your head.
There we go. Wow, my head is shiny. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binaries. Welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Barbara, and this is a cast-esque thing. It's not quite the same. It's actually the second part to a video idea that has been bopping around in my head for a little while now. Specifically, how I would improve Arkham Knight. Or I guess in this case, how we will improve Arkham Knight. Because I have brought a good friend of mine. His name is Pharrow, and he's very much a story world-building nut. So I figured that he would be the kind of person to have join my lovely, hopefully soon not bearded face, in order to talk how we can improve Arkham, story-wise, actually. This is why I didn't want to talk about any story-specific changes in the last video, because there's quite a few things that we wanted to change in Arkham Knight story-wise, and if you've seen the top 10 for gameplay changes, there was a lot of things. So it was quite a long video as was, and I made it all in Share Factory, so, that's fun. So, without further ado, let's get started. And we are recording!
Awesome.
This is Pharrow. I introduced you a little earlier in the chat, but why don't you give us like a quick little blurb about yourself?
A little bit about myself. Alright. Well, I'm a nerd, that's one thing. A lot of video games. And, not long walks on the beach.
Why? Is it because of the sand?
Yeah, it's kind of coarse, a little rough, pretty damn irritating. Stuff just gets everywhere.
Yeah, so this is my partner in crime for this video. As they are new, I wanted them to do a quick introduction before we dive into the main topic. Fixing the weakest of the Arkham stories by, honestly, a pretty sizable margin, in my opinion. I mean, it's such a problem. Go ahead.
Fair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment. It's probably the weakest story the Arkham games have to offer.
Yeah, it's
in its defense, that's a pretty damn high bar.
Oh yeah, a lot of the stuff, for side missions and little story bits are great, but there's a lot of tidbits, and honestly, I don't remember that much, which is a problem because I could probably tell you a lot of the Arkham City story beat for beat. Same with Arkham Origins, but Arkham Knight, I got little except for the stuff that bothered me.
I've got a lot of it remembered. I've only ever played it once, but a lot of it's mostly just the big events. I couldn't tell you the in-between beats.
Yeah, I remember a lot of the side missions though, so that's fun. And just as general notes for us to catch up, I just realized that I could probably send this image in the chat to show what we're talking about. There are 15 main missions in Batman Arkham Knight. When I say main missions, I mean missions in the story mode. There are four of them are militia-specific, relating to things like chasing lieutenants and APCs and dealing with Batmobile mines, etc. Characters that have their own missions are Azrael, Riddler, Firefly, Hush, Professor Pig, Man-Bat, Two-Face, and Penguin. And then we are also going to be talking about the Season of Infamy, which has Killer Croc, the League of Assassins, Mr. Freeze, and Hatter-related missions. There's a couple of plot points I feel like were relatively unresolved. Oh, I actually forgot about Deacon Blackfire, too. So Deacon Blackfire has a mission as well. Plot points currently unresolved. Hush stuff, Saint Dumas stuff. There were also some DLC stories for Batgirl that took place before Arkham Asylum, and then Red Hood, Nightwing, Catwoman, and Robin, which took place after Arkham Knight, and Harley Quinn's, that took place just before Arkham Knight. And the primary plots in a sentence is Batman hunts down Scarecrow and a new guy named the Arkham Knight to stop them from unveiling unveiling the Arkham Knight behind the mask, while Joker hallucinations threaten to overtake Batman. That's the gist of it, effectively.
Yeah, that checks out. So how did you want to tackle this? Did you just want to go like in reverse order of the list you've posted here? Like start broad strokes, then narrow in on the specifics?
Yeah, I think that would be the smart thing to do. I don't, where is this image? I had an image that was like from ArtStation that was a sort of beta version of the mission wheel, and I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly share this into the chat so that you can see so that it can be seen. Bada bing, bada boom. So, yeah, so I'm just going to throw this up for those viewing at home. This is kind of the mission wheel. And there's a few missions here we didn't talk about, like the fighter missions, and I forgot about the Deacon Blackfire missions. But this is kind of the basic gist of like what the UI is like. By the way, credit to Simon Brewer, senior front end / UI artist on Arkham Knight, for a neat concept idea. So let's start broad and narrow it down to the niggly wigglies. We got about 2 hours to do this.
All right, so first and foremost, I think the biggest glaring issue of Batman Arkham Knight's story is that the Arkham Knight isn't the main villain.
Yeah, I mean, it's titled after the guy. They really hyped this guy up, even though, like, in, like, 2 weeks, people have pretty much figured out who the Arkham Knight actually was. They kept trying to hype it up. God bless the PR people for trying, at the very least. And yet, everything shuts down when you beat Scarecrow, not Arkham Knight. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm really glad with what they did with Scarecrow. Like, making him a threat, making him terrifying is great. But Scarecrow really steals the spotlight from Arkham Knight, and that's borderline criminal.
Yeah, it is. That's probably my biggest issue with the game, and I do have quite a few issues with the story, is that the game is called Arkham Knight. The main villain should be the Arkham Knight. The main villain should be, I guess, spoiler alert in case nobody's seen the main story. Stop listening because we're going to spoil it. The Arkham Knight is Jason fucking Todd.
Yeah, I should probably clarify, if you are watching this and are trying to avoid spoilers for a 7-year-old game, I don't know what you're doing watching this video, let's be honest, but go play Arkham Knight.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the Arkham Knight is Jason Todd, and the game, like, for the entire time I was playing it, I was just waiting for the Arkham Knight to take over as the main villain. But the more I played, the closer I got to the end, I was like, they're really just having Scarecrow be the main villain here, aren't they?
Indeed. Like, if they just...
I'm in the same boat as you. It's like, I like Scarecrow. Scarecrow's a cool villain. What they're doing with Scarecrow is cool. But this isn't Batman Scarecrow.
Yeah, this isn't Batman Arkham City of Fear, or... Well, that's a little bit of a mouthful, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's Arkham Knight with a K. Because he's the Arkham Knight. Why is he not the main character? Or the main villain, I suppose. Yeah. The other thing that really bothered me was that they didn't really lean that hard into the mystery angle for Arkham Knight. Like, it gets questioned a couple of times here or there, but there's never, like, any false leads that Batman chases and it turns out to be untrue, save for, like, you're trying to get Oracle back and you think you've caught the Arkham Knight and it's just some dude with a voice synthesizer. That's like the one fake out. And I was expecting like, oh, he thinks he's got the Arkham Knight. It's this one dude. Then he goes after the dude and it turns out the dude was not the Arkham Knight and Arkham Knight played him. You know?
Yeah. But I feel like that would be more of an issue that's resolved if you take the step before and just make him the main villain, because if he's the main villain, obviously he's going to be more of a focus, and his identity is going to be more of a focus by the transitive property.
Exactly. That's like, it's a problem, but it's a problem that's fixed with something else.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, you don't even have to change a lot of what's going on in the game to make him the main villain. You just need to stop making him Scarecrow's lackey.
Indeed, you can almost flip the priorities. You know, where where by the time you beat the Cloudburst and everything, Scarecrow's taken down, and then you still have, like, the other half of the third act to go after Arkham Knight.
Yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong, it's like, obviously what Scarecrow's doing and what I guess he arranged the entire time is still pretty dire. He's flooded the city with fear gas. But that can still just be an Arkham Knight mission, and the Arkham Knight's got a freaking army!
Yeah.
That takes a little more precedent than fear gas.
Right? And it's like, and I talked about this before in my top 10 video, but I also feel like the Arkham Knight's militia were way overhyped. The big, new, scary threat. These were just general thugs in red camo. They prestiged a couple of times in Call of Duty. That's about it.
They leveled up a few times in the Battle Pass. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. But it's like, the normal people don't act very different. Yes, they got sword people, which is cute. Whatever. But where's the martial artists? Where's the thermal goggle users? Where's them being clever and trying to sabotage gadgets? You know?
And I feel like, and that's something I do massively agree with in your top 10 video, is that, and this does play into the story, it's like, there needed to be more enemy variety, enemy types, and the Arkham Knight's militia definitely needed to be more threatening.
Exactly. You see the red camo, you poop a little. That's the idea.
Yeah. And I guess to sort of like stack on top of that, it's like these guys are meant to be an entire army, and in a couple of cutscenes you see them with like armored personnel carriers, APCs. Yet at no point do you get to fight them with the Batmobile.
Well, that's the whole...
No, you do.
Yeah,
no, you do.
Yes, that's the whole plot of it. But they're APC chases. You're chasing these guys in the tank. The APCs, yes, in the chases they try and fight back with the rocket launchers after you take down a couple of them, but they don't stand their ground. I would have loved if there was an APC chase or two where, especially near the end, where they get wise and the APC fires an EMP that shuts down the Batmobile, and you've got to fight the crew of the APC while dodging APC fire.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it's like, I feel like there could stand to be, like, APCs driving around in free roam.
Yeah. At least until the very end, where you flattened Arkham Knight's army.
Yeah. But that's veering into gameplay territory, not necessarily story, which is not what we're here to discuss.
Yes. Reeling back to story. The point of the whole thing is that make them scarier, and maybe make Arkham Knight adapt. This is solved with him being more present, but have him adapt a little more to the situation. Have him shoot down the Batwing at some point. You know?
Yeah. And it's like, and again, a lot of this would probably be solved with making him the greater focus of the story, but it's like, it's like what you said, there's not a lot of mystery to it, and they do a lot of telling, not showing, that he knows a lot about Batman. And the only line we get that shows that he knows about Batman is, go for the gaps in the armor. And it's like, come on, dude. Really? That's the best you come up with? How about, oh yeah, aim for his back.
Yeah, hit him in the back with hit him in the back, go for the blind spot. As a rationale to kind of maybe seed Batman on that maybe he doesn't know as much as he thinks he does, but he actually knows more. Playing mind games with Batman.
Yeah.
And that happens again in one part of the plot I do remember, where he's talking about how he's got Barbara and all that, and he's commenting that the armor is nice, except for when you know exactly where to shoot, and he shoots in the gap of the armor. And then Batman has the magic syringe that puts him back on his feet, which, in hindsight, I wonder if 2022 Batman took from that.
Well, I mean, it's probably just a shot of adrenaline, if we're being real.
Yeah, that's true. I just realized, wow, Arkham Knight did it first.
Well, yeah, it's like the Batman is pretty much just a love letter to Batman in general.
Oh yeah, I just noticed that cute little detail. But it's like, the 2 points that make you know that he knows you is the gaps in his armor. What about and him being surprised that the Batmobile's got new capabilities? But more something, maybe him.
Oh yeah, how about the locations of all of his secret little bat caves?
Yeah, there's they going after Oracle. they could have handled that better, in my personal opinion. But that's brilliant. Cut the info jack out of the equation, and all of a sudden, Batman's in trouble.
Yeah.
But the Wayne Manor Batcave, talk about make a mention that he knows about the Arkham Batcave,
Yeah. And then just like their little hideouts and little secluded areas all over the city, have him post goons around there.
Exactly.
But there's a lot they could do to show rather than tell that Arkham Knight knows Batman and make it more pressing that Batman finds out who he is.
Precisely correct right there. And if we take a look at who Arkham Knight is working with for a second, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, Penguin, and Two-Face, and kinda sorta Harley.
Is he really working with Harley though? Because I feel like Harley just attacked on her own. She was just doing her own thing.
Yeah, she was doing her own thing. That's why I was like, kinda. But Harley was used to get Poison Ivy. But that's like the extent of the partnership. And then Harley went and did her own thing.
Well, was Ivy working with Arkham Knight?
Well, Ivy was originally tasked with working with Scarecrow, but she pretty early on gets busted and becomes a turncoat.
That's something I don't remember. Well, he's also working with Deathstroke.
Yeah, that's right. And I love the Arkham story where Deathstroke is just sitting back watching, and he's just like... And they compare it to, like, watching somebody play a video game really badly and wanting to swipe the controller. And I'm just picturing Slade sharpening his knife like, amateur, fucking amateur. Speaking of Deathstroke, maybe make him more than a Cobra Tank battle and a cutscene?
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely, I 100% agree. Make Deathstroke more than just a cutscene fight. And maybe it's the point, like, maybe if they're trying to say, like, Batman's, like, fought him how many times in the Arkham series now, and now beating him is just kind of routine, but still, it's Deathstroke.
Yeah, except Batman, in the entirety of the Arkham series, has only fought Deathstroke twice. Once in Arkham Origins, then he fucks off to nowhere, then he shows back up in Arkham Knight. He's not even in any of the promotional comics anywhere. So yeah. It's like, if Batman's getting better, so should Slade. So at least make it a boss fight, goddammit.
Yeah. Maybe a co-op boss fight with Nightwing.
Yeah, because, there's scores to settle there, that's for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's another place where the story could be enhanced, is just greater cooperation overall. And it's maybe just the point of Batman not wanting to associate too closely with everyone because of the Joker hallucinations. But, still. It would have been, for a story that was trying so hard to tie up loose ends and bring finality to everything, they left a lot of loose threads.
Yeah, there's they tried to bring up loose ends with, Hush, for instance. That's one of the first characters I really want to talk about is, Hush, Arkham City. They tease he was going to do a great big thing and frame Bruce Wayne and, discredit him. And his whole side mission is like, maybe 20 minutes, if that?
Not the greatest for probably one of Batman's most, not necessarily popular, but at least well known within the comic book community.
Yeah, people like Hush. It's a shame and they were setting up a really cool thing with Hush in the Arkhamverse. And it's like they completely realized that they had to tie up loose ends with Hush, and were like, and then threw together what the hell we had there.
Yeah. I feel like that leads me to another thing that kind of bothers me about Arkham Knight. On the one hand, I get it, but on the other, it still bothers me. They tried too hard to make this final. They tried too hard to make it the end. And I get it. I get why. This is like the fourth game they made. Origins didn't do super well, and they didn't want to leave any more hanging threads than they had to. But how many fucking characters do they off in that game?
let's see. Poison Ivy dies, for sure. Poison Ivy dies, Bruce Wayne dies, at least that we're immediately aware of, because Suicide Squad
Alfred dies.
Huh?
Alfred, because he's at the manor too when it explodes.
Right, yeah, Alfred goes boom. Which, that's another thing. Why is that not mentioned in the DLC stories?
I guess Rocksteady just underestimates how much the Bat fan cares about Alfred.
Which is not a surprise, because that seems to be one of their more common problems. That they just underestimate how much people care in general. Yeah, Ivy dies, Alfred dies, Bruce dies. That's 3 deaths in the game. And if we look back to previous Arkham games for a moment, looking back to previous Arkham games and thinking about it, nobody died. Well, Penelope Young dies in Arkham Asylum, but that's that's Joker related. So she dies, and there's other big characters, but we're talking like major name characters. So Dr. Young dies, Joker dies in Arkham City. In Arkham Origins, Electrocutioner dies. So it's kind of like one major is a bit of a stretch for a couple of these deaths, but it's like notable deaths. There's like 1 notable death per Arkham game, and then suddenly there's like 3.
Or if you count Black Mask.
Yeah. Forgot about that. 4 if you count Roman Sionis. So, yeah.
And not only that, but there's also the fact that Batman's been unmasked. Everyone knows who Batman is. And he's unmasked by Scarecrow, of all characters.
Indeed.
Which, say what you will. Also, they kind of, like, fully commit to getting rid of the Joker with the hallucinations being wrapped up.
Yep. And it's funny because it's like the hallucinations themselves feel like a weird cop-out to just have Joker kicking around. But, like...
That's kind of where I disagree. I know I'm in the minority when I say this, but I actually really like the Joker hallucinations because at the end of the day, I feel like the Arkham games, especially the Arkham trilogy, if you want to count it, that Asylum City and Night, they're Batman and Joker's story.
Yeah, that's true. And I suppose I'm not as bothered by them as other people are. It's just like it just would have been nice if we had one game without the Joker, but I digress. That's probably that'll be what Suicide Squad's for. We got Harley, we got King Shark. It'll be a grand old time.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the Arkham series in general is just the story of Batman and Joker, which is why it would have been even more good if Arkham Knight was the villain of Arkham Knight, because that's totally the result of the Joker.
Yep, that's more Joker shenanigans. There's a couple of other little niggly wiggly rewrites I would like to do for the Joker. For instance, and this has bothered me since I've kind of revisited this and just revisited some of Barbara's older stories, they managed to butcher the Killing Joke.
How's that?
The way they had Joker shoot Barbara is that Barbara opens the door, Joker announces his presence, and it takes 3 seconds for him to shoot Barbara from the moment she opens the door. 3 seconds, and Barbara runs away. Now, the thing about that ruins the Killing Joke for me, is that part of the main reason why it's so shocking, for the most part, that Barbara gets shot is how fast it happens, right? She opens the door, it's 4 panels. Her face, his face, gunshot, she's on the floor. That's maybe half a second?
Yeah, it's implied that the moment the door is opened, he's pulling the trigger.
Exactly.
And I definitely see what you're getting from. I don't remember it. All I remember is the flashback sequence when Bruce is roaming through his memories, I guess. Roaming through his and the Joker's memories, and the Killing Joke moment pops up.
Yeah. And that's kind of how that happens. And Babs, and that's the other thing, and this is just kind of a thing in general with Arkham Knight that bothers me. If anybody knows has viewed the channel for a little while, you know the bias. But Babs runs away when she had time to disarm and knock out the Joker. She had 3 seconds. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And this is a former Batgirl. This is somebody who does not give a... This is somebody who can fight, has been known to fight, and in the prequel story is willing to, in a third of the time, if that, jump in front of a bullet that was aimed for Tim Drake. That's another thing that bothers me, but you know, TLDR.
Yeah, that's an entire other issue that we'll get to.
Yeah, but, like, this is Barbara. Why is Barbara scared of the Joker and turns to flight instead of fight? Like, guy comes at the door with the gun. Scary. Batgirl, fight. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah. And
yeah, I get it. I totally 100% agree. But this is just me literally just playing devil's advocate for a second. It's like, the truth of the matter is there is always the fight or flight response. She's not in her armor. She's not... It's like her dad's over. So there's two ways to look at it that could maybe justify it a stretch. Again, I don't agree that these would justify, but it's like either it's literally just fight or flight and her instinct was flight in that instant, or she was running to like cover her dad. That's the most I can see.
Yeah, and even then it's like 3 seconds is entirely too long. Like, if you're going to stretch out, if you're going to make the Candygram joke, make it like a second. Because the third part of fight or flight is freeze. So, Candygram, bang, you know?
Yeah.
And overall, that's one thing about Arkham Knight that bothers me. Is like, in the Arkham games, Barbara in general is great. Like, she's one of the better written characters for the whole thing. In Arkham Origins, she's 15 and hacks into Batman's comms and helps him out a little bit for one of the side missions. In Arkham Asylum, she's pretty good. In Arkham City, there is one thing where it's like, Babs, you did it dumb. But I can forgive that for the plot, and that's the whole Protocol 10 thing. In Arkham Knight, on the other hand, there's like 3 or 4 times at least that I was watching this going, I'm sorry, Babs, is this an off day for you? Or did they really try to neuter you this much just to make the story go? Because, like, ugh.
Well, I will say this, and this is not a slight against you, it's just natural, but there are biases that exist, and the way I see it, like, Babs, she's smart, but she's still human, she'll still make mistakes.
Yeah, and that's why I can forgive the Arkham City thing, because it's like, oh, hey, you know. And I can also almost chalk this more up to Bruce for not asking one of the smartest people he knows, hey, Protocol 10, because he asks Joker, he asks Alfred, he asks a couple of other people, he asks Catwoman, never asks Barbara. Never crosses his mind to ask Barbara. So it's like, Brucey, you did it dumb.
Well, there's also just the fact that, like, he probably figured if she knew, she'd probably just tell him, but... Yeah,
right? It's like, but it's a natural thing that makes more sense, is what I'm saying. It's a more logical slip-up for both of them to make than the, like, 3 or 4 issues that she's making. It's like, okay, a couple of mistakes here or there, sure, but, like, Babs, baby, what?
What are the issues you're specifically talking about in Arkham Knights?
Okay, well, there's her having it's early on, she's having some trouble with some hacking, which, okay, fine, whatever, maybe the Arkham Knight has some nice encryption. You see also in, well, this kind of explains it away as well, is the Birds of Prey exist as well, and I'm kind of surprised that they don't come to her as aid. The clock tower isn't blown up, so why is she, like, coordinating an attack from GCPD unless, like, that's, like, the immediate thing? Just trying to remember the sequence of events for the GCPD attack, as it were. The whole kind of relying on Batman and her not having a backup plan for if she gets grabbed. I suppose it's just kind of a surprise thing, like she is caught off guard, but the one thing she does to try and get herself out of that situation is she pepper sprays the driver and tries to drive away. She doesn't, like, try to leave any clues or tell Batman where she is or the Birds of Prey where she's been captured, because she's been captured in the comics several times because, you know, it's the smart thing to do to take the infojack out of the equation. But every time that Babs has been captured in the main Birds of Prey line, she's gotten herself out.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is just something that leads credence to the Arkham Knight, Jason Todd, knowing more about her, like being more capable of holding her down, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and I think part of the problem is that if they just made Babs make fewer mistakes and made Arkham Knight more of a presence and thus did more stuff, again, this is, you make Arkham Knight the main bad guy, and a lot of the problems go away.
Yeah.
And that's like one of those things. Is like it is like you see that he takes Barbara and all of this, but I remember we did talk about this a little bit before we recorded this video. We were talking about how Babs gets relocated and Babs is taken from, I think it's the Batcave, and part of the hint is how he reacts when he hears Alfred got hurt.
Yeah, because we were talking about like how we would do a rewrite of the Arkham Knight, and there was a sequence that took place entirely within the Batcave, and the Arkham Knight, just like his one rule is don't hurt the butler, and one of his goons hurts the butler.
And he shoots that guy in the knee, which tips Barbara off that, wait a minute, why does he care so much about the butler? Or why does he care so much about Alfred, And we even see that he's being relatively gentle to Babs. Like, oh yeah, she's gagged, sure, but it's mentioned in one of the audio tapes that, like, nobody hurts Barbara, and she's, and he's trying his best to kind of keep her protected in that situation. It's just...
Yeah. And the way it plays out in the normal game is that at first she's in the Belfry or the Clock Tower, whichever you want to call it. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
She's there. She gets captured from there. Bruce rescues her, so to speak, I think.
No, what happens... What happens is that she gets gassed, and then she, quote-unquote, shoots herself. Fun fact, when I saw that happen, I turned off my PS4 and didn't play Arkham Knight again for 2 straight weeks.
I don't blame you. That was surprising. Like, I legitimately hung around that room, like, using detective mode on her just to see what the fuck.
Yeah, although the clue should have happened, like, it should have clicked in right beforehand, because you know who hands her the gun?
Joker.
Yeah!
Yeah. Then, after a long while, she does get rescued. Not a long while, a short while.
She is taken, she's disappeared, and she is gone for like half the game. Like, you don't get her back until Gordon shoots you.
Yeah. And then after that she's taken to GCPD, I guess, so Jim can keep an eye on her.
Yeah, and because the GCPD is under attack and she is coordinating with Bruce. By the way, if you've ever failed the GCPD Batmobile battle, that cutscene where the militia storm in and just shoots up the place is also very jarring.
Yeah, a little bit. I remember that. That is a lot of weird, jarring moments in this game.
I guess they really wanted to sell that M rating, and so they really decided to make things really shocking. Like, part of the interrogation with using the Batmobile to threaten to crush the guy's skull is like, whoa, guys. If you wanted an M rating, just have a little bit of dismemberment. That's it.
A light bit of dismemberment. Oh, no.
Just a light bit of dismemberment. Sprinkle it in there. But,
yeah. But, I will say, like, it is like you said, a lot of the minor problems go away when you make the Arkham Knight the main villain, make him the main focus, make him the biggest threat there. Which arguably he already is, but for some reason everyone's focused on Scarecrow.
Exactly. And then with that major fix, you fix a lot of the problems and make some of the other things that bother me make more sense. Like, there are 15 main side missions. 4 of them are dedicated to the militia.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like, yeah, that sells the militia as a threat, but it would have been sold even more if Arkham Knight was the main bad guy and you're actually slowing him down.
Yeah. And just more than that, it's also just a case of, like, if he was the main villain, I also feel like that if he's the main villain, the group he's specifically working with would be a lot different. Like, I don't think he'd be working with Ivy, Two-Face, and all of them.
Yeah.
I think the rogues he's actually working with to, uses the whole Red Hood, early Red Hood in particular, where he just straight up murders criminals. I feel like he'd be a lot more limited and selective, is probably the right word.
Yeah.
So I don't Ivy would be someone he specifically works with, because it's like, how would she in particular factor into his plan? I feel like a lot of what I would do, honestly, is I would have a lot of the side stories and everything, which they kind of already are, but a lot of them I would just have as these guys are just having fun amidst the anarchy.
They're taking advantage of the situation, which makes sense because Two-Face is robbing banks, Penguin is selling weapons, Firefly is burning down fire stations. There are a bunch of missing fire crew members.
Yeah.
Azrael
just wants to be Batman.
Yeah, Azrael. Yeah. Speaking of, though, some of these characters in cast and whatnot, I know we should keep Deathstroke, partially because, it never hurts to have somebody more experienced lend a hand in a military-style occupation if he's a former military guy. But also, I like to think that the main reason why Arkham Knight doesn't try and fuck with Deathstroke is because he knows he can't beat him.
Eventually.
So
I think another thing, I'll let you finish after this, I just wanted to get this out there before I forgot, but I think something that would help add to the mystery of the Arkham Knight is if the militia was not only going after Batman, but going after these other, crime bosses around the city as well.
Right, and they do know the crime bosses, they do talk about them in idle conversation, so it makes perfect sense.
Because, he's still, Jason Todd still doesn't become Red Hood after he's unmasked as the Arkham Knight, so to me it makes sense that while he's working on his military occupation of Gotham to, I guess, just, take over, he's also trying to clean up the crime a bit.
Yeah, by painting the streets of Gotham red with their blood. Speaking of criminals, though, there are 3 new villains that show up. That immediately come to mind. There are 3 new villains that show up in Arkham Knight. Deacon Blackfire, Professor Pig, and Man-Bat. How do you think they're handled?
Man-Bat, I think, is handled excellently.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even, stretch out his quest into more missions, because I feel like the amount of time he gets dedicated to him is, perfect.
Plus, he makes for really cute jump scares once in the blue moon.
Yeah. Professor Pig, sufficiently creepy. I wouldn't really change anything there either.
I like that he's also more of a detective villain. You've got to figure out who they are, who the former Doubletrons are. Because...
That's something that definitely made those quests stand out to me, is the whole detective angle of them. And then Deacon Blackfire is legitimately the one of those 3 I do not remember for the life of me.
I forgot he was there before we started recording. His whole thing is that, Jack Ryder is investigating a cult. He gets captured by the cult. Batman beats the cult. Batman arrests Deacon Blackfire, which is a crazy disservice to Deacon Blackfire, because Deacon Blackfire, if you look into him, is one of those villains that's Jesus, how has he not been in a movie yet? Because he's a crazy, fanatical, religious leader, sure. But in his debut story, he captures Batman, drugs him, brainwashes him, and turns him into his personal enforcer, and he even kills people. He makes Bruce Wayne kill people. This is a guy capable of breaking Batman mentally. Tying him up, drugging him, beating him, brainwashing him for days, weeks. And he gets 10 minutes of screen time max.
Yeah.
So it's Deacon is one of those characters that I think could have definitely benefited from a longer story, or hell, even a DLC flashback story, where Deacon Blackfire does mess with someone and it causes major problems, right? But it's Deacon Blackfire has the same problem with Hush. He was just tacked on to make things crazier in Gotham, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think it does only speak to the quality of the mission he was given if I literally forgot he was in the game.
Same here, right? And
I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot about it.
Yeah.
Also, on a side note, I just looked up pictures of Deacon Blackfire so I can remember who the fuck this guy is. And I saw someone's fan casting for a live-action Deacon Blackfire.
who is that?
Jeff Bridges, which is like quite a cast.
I mean, really old white dude. It works.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, he could pull it off.
Is he actually a priest in this shot?
I think in the movie, in that GIF, yes. I'm not sure which it is. I'll quickly double check. I'll do my research. But meanwhile, you can keep talking about this dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with Deacon Blackfire. I just wanted to say also as a quick note, Pharrow is a massive film nerd.
Yeah, way to sell me out, Jesus.
No, see, I totally forgot to mention that. Like, Pharrow's like my go-to for a lot of movie stuff, so...
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Ah.
2018, and it looks like he plays a priest, maybe?
I mean, it certainly looks like
Father Daniel is his character.
Yeah,
Father Daniel Flynn and Donald O'Kelly.
okay.
Weird. I've never heard of this movie. I might have to check it out. But anyway, Arkham Knight, yeah.
Yeah,
Deacon Blackfire.
Bring it back. Yeah, that's the thing with Deacon Blackfire. And what I would do one of two things. One, it's the easy route out, but it would also help the game because it gives more development time for other stuff. Just cut him out of the game outright. Deacon Blackfire is one of those villains where it's like, you gotta go big or you don't use him at all. And if you're not gonna go big with him, just turf him. There's 15 side missions. There's 15 total story missions in Arkham Knight. Losing one isn't a problem. Like, even, like, just doing the math.
Meanwhile, while you do the math, here's what I'll say. What I would personally do is I would dedicate an entire DLC story to Deacon Blackfire.
Yeah, that's the second option. Make it a second DLC story, or throw him in the Season of Infamy, because the Season of Infamy was pretty well done overall.
Oh yeah, I think my favorite part of it was Mr. Freeze.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so I just did a little bit of quick math, and if I did my numbers right, it is less than, I think it's like less than 6% of the game would be lost if Deacon Blackfire was cut out of it. So
Yeah.
so it's not.
And that's probably being generous given how little he actually occupies.
Exactly. But yeah, so giving him his own like Season of Infamy thing would have been awesome. I would have really liked that approach.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Season of Infamy is only 4 missions, right? So you make it 5. That's a nice round number, and gives Deacon Blackfire a little more love. So either you don't use him and thus don't shortchange him in the mission, or you give him the story he deserves.
Yeah. And I think like the same could be said of good old Tommy Elliott.
Yes,
So-
gosh.
Which I feel like Hush, the way you do him better is well, it's like, this is another problem with them trying to make everything so final. It's like, the game ends with Bruce Wayne supposedly dying. Again, spoiler alert for this game, which if you're wanting to hear us to fix the story and you haven't even seen the story yet, what the fuck are you doing here?
Respect.
But, it's like, the game literally ends with him supposedly dying. I don't think he actually died, but whatever. That's besides the point. It's like, it's really hard to do that story with him supposedly dead in any sort of, like, post-game DLC mission or anything.
Yeah, like the only thing I can maybe think about is the DLC characters, like who gets the DLC story? Batgirl, Red Hood, Nightwing, Catwoman, Robin, and Harley Quinn. The one that doesn't get one is Azrael. And, okay, well, I just had a great idea. I'm going to put in that for later. But first things first, give Azrael a DLC story mission where he's chasing leads that Bruce Wayne is back from the dead and killing people. The heir to the cowl sort of thing.
True. I mean, also just for, like, purely, like, religious parallels, maybe the heir to the cowl thing, Azrael's villain could be the DLC of Deacon Blackfire.
That was literally the idea that just popped into my head. Like, wait a minute, this would be a great idea, but I have to talk about Thomas Elliott first. But, you know...
But yeah, let's focus on Tommy Elliott first. I honestly think a maybe better approach would be a Nightwing story with Tommy Elliott. Bruce Wayne's first son investigating the return of Bruce Wayne from the grave.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Like,
Plus, the DLC, if Dick Grayson was going up against Tommy Elliott, that would lead to a very good chance to explore the scarcely seen dark side for Dick Grayson.
Yes. Make Dick Grayson angry. That would be great. I do like the DLC that we got, which is basically an attempted breakout of GCPD by Penguin, because those two are very closely associated in Arkham Knight. But you know, I wouldn't mind a Deacon, like, if we gave Nightwing a Batgirl length DLC thing, which you can beat the Batgirl story in about an hour, give or take.
Yeah.
A Deacon Blackfire mission, or not Deacon Blackfire, a Thomas Elliott mission would be perfect. Like, Penguin's the appetizer, Hush is the main course.
Yeah. And I feel like each of the characters could probably get away with getting their own, like, Batgirl-sized expansion.
Indeed. Like, Robin's... Okay. I think this is the bit where we can reasonably talk about this. Tim Babs should have died the second it was pitched.
Yeah,
It was
like,
so...
enough with the bat cest. We don't need it.
And, like, okay. And, even if you wanted to do Babs with Dick, that's... For me, personally, I stopped caring about that. That's fine. You do that. Whatever. It at least makes sense to the comics.
Yeah.
Tim Babs comes completely out of left field. Like, okay, Oracle does not mention him at all in Arkham Asylum. Then again, there isn't really a Robin mention, but, you know, we'll cut Arkham Asylum some slack, because it was the first game and they were still kind of building up that universe. Arkham City, Tim shows up for, like, one cutscene, and Barbara doesn't mention him ever. Arkham Origins, it wouldn't make sense for this anyway, but Babs doesn't mention Tim. All of a sudden, Tim and Babs are getting married at the end of Arkham Knight? What?
Yeah, that is... Like, their entire story. Like, Tim Babs should have just been cut. It makes literally no sense.
Shelved. Forever. Eternally.
I didn't even say shelved, because shelving implies you're going to save it for later. I'd say just throw it away. Throw it out.
No. Throw it into the fire pit and burn it. Have a bonfire. Sing Kumbaya.
Throw it into Deacon Blackfire's sacrificial fire pit, because he probably has one.
I think he actually does. I'm not too sure, but I think he does. I know he has a secret cave, which is where he chained up Batman for weeks, but...
Of course he does.
Yeah, so relating to the DLC stories, the Batgirl story...
Blackfire, not to get too much off topic, but Deacon Blackfire really just strikes me as the culmination of every cultist stereotype.
Yes, with a Christian undertone of death.
Well, that implies a Christian. But anyway.
Any hoodle noodle. Yeah, so Batgirl, the Batgirl one, that's fine. Tim Babs hints aside, the Batgirl DLC is the best DLC, especially because it lets you free roam the Seagate amusement park afterwards and find collectibles, find stuff, and find references and hints. The Starro thing, for one.
Yeah. Again, spoiler alert, Starro the Conqueror makes an appearance in the Batgirl story.
Yeah, which means he was on Earth since before Arkham Asylum, which I believe that was meant to be a sly little hint at Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, maybe? Because they were hinting at Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, and nobody knew for such a long time that a staff member had to leak it to people. I know there was no real build-up for Arkham Knight, but Arkham Origins did kind of lead into the Arkham Asylum build-up nicely because it had to, but it did pretty well there. But like that must have been what they were doing there because I think the Batgirl DLC was like the last major update besides challenge maps. Anyways, Red Hood, 15 minutes of him going after Black Mask and killing him. Nightwing, 15 minutes of him going after and arresting Penguin. Catwoman, 15 minutes of her going after and bankrupting Riddler. Robin, I think it's actually closer to 10 minutes. 10 minutes of him going after and beating up Two-Face. Harley Quinn, 20 minutes of her going to free Poison Ivy for Scarecrow in Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
So where do we start? considering that Ivy...
Right off the bat, if we're talking about, like, Batgirl-sized expansions for each of these characters, I think the best place to start would be Tommy Elliott Nightwing.
Yeah. Like, Red Hood, or like we said, Penguin is kind of the start, and then he hears rumors that Bruce Wayne is killing people, which is strange, because Bruce Wayne is dead. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only that, but it's like, if you could also just take these, like, there's their primary DLC, which are about 15 minutes of content, then there's these larger expansions. Like, maybe the Nightwing story takes place in a small slice of Bloodhaven.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Plus, the thing is that Batgirl was the only one to get a particularly large piece of DLC like that. The other 5 that got the side stories only ever got those 15-minute expansions.
Yeah. So yeah, I think a little slice of Bloodhaven, Dick Grayson's just doing his thing, and then a rumor crops up, oh hey, Bruce Wayne seems to has been spotted, back from the dead, and he's murdering people.
Indeed. Because Hush did not know that Bruce Wayne died in an explosion at Wayne Manor, somehow.
Or maybe he did, and he's just doing this to fuck with Bruce's reputation from beyond the grave.
Might as well, right? It's like, oh, yeah. Well, Bruce Wayne can't stop me now. Stab, 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 stab.
Yeah, and that makes Dick a very angry boy.
Yes, so we get to see a lot of anger and him maybe even almost killing Hush before Lucius is like, hey, whoa, cut this out. By the way, I love that Lucius Fox is the one that talks to Nightwing afterwards.
Oh, yeah. For Azrael, obviously we have the Deacon Blackfire idea, which I think is just perfect.
Yeah, especially if we tie him into the Order of St. Dumas, because the Order of St. Dumas is the whole reason why Azrael got completely and utterly fucked over. But, like, he goes in, he's kicking Order ass, he is taking names, and then he comes to the head cultist, who's in his hyper-elaborate robes, and Michael challenges him to a battle, and he throws off the robes, and it's Deacon motherfucking Blackfire with the Sword of Sorrows.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Which, hey, that works well enough for me. Plus, I think it would be really funny just to kind of tie it in, because this Azrael, even though he's the New 52 Azrael, he's basically like Michael, I can't remember his last name, in name only. He is way more of a John Paul Valley, but for some reason they didn't use the Jean Paul Valley name, which was
probably because they thought it sounded goofy or some reason like that.
Or maybe WB didn't, or maybe DC didn't want him to use that. Whatever. However, he's very much Jean Paul Valley in character, and Jean Paul Valley and Barbara Gordon have a semi-sibling style relationship in the comics, and I think it would have been cute if Babs is helping Azrael out.
That'd be cool.
Just for time's sake.
Yeah. Real quick, this is something that's cropped in my head. You mentioned that it didn't make a lot of sense, or you kind of hand-waved it, but you said that Barbara Gordon is having trouble hacking into the militia stuff. Well, I just thought of a reason why she probably would, and it'd be another character introduced to the Arkhamverse.
Let me guess. One Noah Cutler.
You're goddamn right.
I actually kind of like that idea, because maybe she's having trouble and she's kind of confused, and then she realizes, because this happens in a Birds of Prey story where a calculator icon pops up, and then she gets one on her computer when Batman's around, and she's just like, you slimy son of a bitch, of course you'd be working with him. And then this is where Batman's like, who? It's like, the calculator.
Yeah.
And then that, like, if you want to give us an extra side mission, it could be a manhunt for Calculator.
Yeah. Stop him from doing whatever the hell, just stop him from doing calculator things.
And plus, Jason Todd would absolutely work with the Calculator. Because I mean, relatively speaking, because, like, the Calculator is a criminal info broker. He's not one to get his hands dirty anymore, so...
Yeah. And plus, even when he was on his feet doing his own dirty work kind of crook, I mean, he robbed banks and beat the crap out of the Justice League once.
Yeah, before... I think it was before Crisis on Infinite Earths, so that may have been erased from continuity at the time, but we choose to ignore that and keep that in because, despite the silliness of the suit, it's in.
Actually, I don't think it was erased from canon because when Noah was reintroduced, he was in prison, I think, for all the crimes he committed in the purple costume.
Ah, well, there you go.
And when he was released, he talked about reinventing himself because of what he's heard about Oracle.
Yeah, it's like, hey, wait a minute. If the superheroes can have an info jack, why can't the villains? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, I do like the idea of implementing the calculator, and he could replace Deacon Blackfire or Hush because we're taking them out and giving them.
I mean, theoretically, he could replace both of them and get their combined time left over.
Yeah, because what is that a grand total of 20 minutes between Hush and Deacon Blackfire?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Speaking of time dedicated to side missions, let's talk about like how many things you have to do in order to beat these characters. So, Man-Bat, we said, was the perfect length, and you have to take his blood 3 times and then find him, I think, a 4th time to implement the serum so you can take Kirk Langstrom back to GCPD. So that's like 4 total interactions with Black Bat. That's Cassandra. That's one of Cassandra Cain's.
Little Cassandra Cain making her way in, I see.
See, she would be fun too. But that was besides the point. Man-Bat, there we go. So that's perfect for Man-Bat. Plus, I love how Man-Bat looks in this game. He is fantastic.
Oh, he is gnarly looking. I love it.
The Team 17 fire crews, that's a really good length too. I've heard a couple people say that there was too many firemen that got arrested, or that got grabbed, but I disagree. I think it's a nice, reasonable number. I think it's like 10 of them.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So for calculator, probably 4 or 5 missions to speak.
Yeah, because I think Penguin has 5, Two-Face's 4, Firefly has 3, I remember that much for sure. Man-Bat has 3 to 4, depending on how I remember it right. There's 12 APCs, I think, in total. There's, I want to say 15 mines. There's over a dozen checkpoints and watchtowers independently. I know that much. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say closer to 5.
Plus, I've already got like an idea for what these missions could be. It's getting a little away from story, but I feel like if we're going to introduce a new character, we should at least kind of talk about what these missions would be.
Yeah, give it
a lot of these build-up missions before you actually go and find them are he's got like signal jammers or scramblers set up around Gotham, and Oracle pinpoints them for Batman so he can go destroy them so that she can narrow down his location.
Exactly. And that would be a nice callback to the Arkham Origins thing where you had to unlock fast travel by shutting down by taking back radio towers from Enigma.
Yeah.
So
I really like the idea that when you get to the last mission where you actually go to like apprehend Noah, you get to his hideout and just like in a big like Batcave style cylindrical case, he's got the purple suit just on display.
Yeah, and he's like, he sees Batman, and he tries to go for the suit. Batman just knocks him out, and when he wakes up, he's just like, of course Oracle would send you after me. Should have put on the suit beforehand.
You know, Batman, you got a real penchant for cheap shots.
And you have a penchant for being a thorn in my side.
So yeah, but going back to like proper character expansions, we have Tommy Elliott for Nightwing, we have Blackfire for Azrael. Who would Red Hood get?
Okay, well, Red Hood has killed Black Mask. I think we should keep that.
Oh yeah. But the question is, do we keep that or do we expand it into a bigger story?
Oh, no. What I mean by that is that we keep the expansion as it is right now. We keep that as part of a bigger expansion. Like it doesn't end with you killing Black Mask. You killed a major crime lord in Gotham as the Red Hood. People are going to come after you. And not all of them are going to be villains.
Yeah.
And in canon, Red Hood beats the piss out of Tim Drake. So what? So, go ahead.
Honestly, yeah, I can see that Tim Drake being the kind of big bad, quote unquote, of this.
Yeah, the final boss, and this could even take place after Robin beats Two-Face in his story, and it bleeds into the other, because it's all after Arkham Knight. Robin, whatever his story ends up being, it could even end with like, hey, some nut job just killed. Red Hood just killed Black Mask. You need to stop him now. And Robin goes to do that and gets absolutely beaten the shit out of. And Red Hood I can even picture this happening. He beats the crap out of Robin. Robin is like almost knocked out. He grabs Tim, pulls him up to his face and goes, "Listen, kid, you damn near earned that R, but it wasn't good enough. Get better, or this will end you." And he pistol whips him in the face, knocks out Tim Drake, and walks away.
Good deal. That's one avenue and one I can definitely see. But I think leading up to that, in particular, should lead into the anger Jason has over being replaced.
Oh yeah, like Robin shows up and he's like, Bruce's new replacement. How adorable. And he just fucking loses it and tries to shoot Tim Drake on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, this is like year one Red Hood. He's gonna be an angry boy.
Indeed. And then it becomes kind of a Batman versus Deathstroke-esque fight in Arkham Origins, where it has stages, he counters your moves a lot.
Yeah, and it ends with Tim earning Jason's respect a little bit.
Yeah, at the very least being like, close enough. You get to keep that costume and your life. But let me warn you just this once. I catch you slipping. I catch you slipping. You're going to have a lot more lead in you than you used to. Or something like that.
Yeah, just something like that.
Yeah.
But I really like it. I'm super into this. I want to play this.
The only thing I think we could add to kind of bridge the gap from Red Hood kills Black Mask to Red Hood beating the crap out of Red Hood, or out of Robin, which would only add maybe...
Red Hood beating the crap out of Red Robin.
Yeah, the Red Robin fight would be 5 minutes at most. That's another 20 minutes. To get to that point, I think it would be cool if Jason goes after a couple of other rogues, and that allows people to track him down.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I figured, like, after he killed Black Mask in the opening act of this sort of expansion, it then becomes like a case of Tim is following him after that, but he just keeps shaking him, like, keeps throwing shade at him, and then when he's finally had enough, they fight.
Yeah, and I think what would be really cool is that the death of Black Mask incites a mini gang war, and that's where some of the collectibles and the main gameplay things come in. You gotta break up fights in the gangs, lethally or non-lethally. Whether, not necessarily due to a moral choice, just what's convenient for you at the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that would be like your kind of middle/filler is like, you're beating up gangs that are trying to take Black Mask's position, you're beating them back, you're maybe even recruiting people?
Maybe.
Or just something to kind of bridge the gap like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of filler that can take place, but in the end, it's going to be a Red Hood versus Red Robin. Yeah. And that's the question. Would Tim Drake forego the normal Robin identity and be Red Robin in this?
Well, maybe after he gets his ass kicked as Robin, he figures a new identity would better suit him. And maybe he takes...
Or heck, maybe after his solo story, which we kind of agreed would take place before this, maybe that's when he becomes Red Robin.
Yeah, that works. Like, he takes out Two-Face, but he feels like Robin isn't quite the name for him, so he decides to kind of step up his game a little bit.
That just leads me to another sort of banter between Jason and Tim. It's like when Jason sees his new costume and goes, "So first you took my job, now you're taking my name."
What are you talking about? And Jason's just like, and you're also taking my color, you dick! And then,
First you took my job, now you're taking my name, now you're going to take this fucking bullet!
exactly. And I think when he said, and now you're taking my fucking color too? Awkward pause. And he says, you fucking dick? Awkward pause. They kind of look at each other and tilt their head for a second. Because I imagine at this point they know who's who. And it's like,
Yeah.
Dick's absolved. You're not.
Dick's absolved. You're not.
Speaking of Robin, though, the becoming of the Red Robin, I think what we could do. There's a couple of avenues for after Robin takes care of Two-Face and he's trying to reinvent himself and become the Red Robin. There's a couple of things that we could probably do. In the comics, Jack Drake, his dad, does die. So I wonder if, like, through some semi-unrelated incident, the Drakes die. And then you have to go chase their killer.
Potentially.
Like,
Wait,
what?
I'm nothing. I just had a little bit of a brain pop. I keep going.
No, tell me what the brain pop is. I'm curious.
Literally, it was just an idea that popped in my head. It's like, what if we introduced more future Batman characters in this story, like Stephanie Brown?
You know what? That's not a bad idea. Wait a minute. What? That's who killed Jack Drake?
Who?
Captain Boomerang.
What?
Yeah, Captain Boomerang killed Jack Drake.
That is a hell of a twist. I did not expect that.
Yeah. I mean, it sells that Captain Boomerang is an asshole who'll kill people, but, like, Captain Boomerang? He's a Flash villain! Not that I mind, but still!
Yeah, well... I guess all Flash's villains are just dicks.
You know, it's funny, though, because Captain Boomerang does get mentioned in Arkham Origins, and he does show up in the semi-canon movie Assault on Arkham. I'm just saying, it's an idea.
I guess.
But he would have...
Real quick, I want you to clarify something for me, because, quick disclaimer, I still don't know all the Batman rogues. I know, blasphemy, but, Clue Master, does he kill people, or is he just sort of his own thing? Does he not do that?
I think Clue Master is a second-rate Riddler. Let me double-check.
Well, I figured from the name and what I've heard of his giving, but I don't know if he's, like, homicidal or...
Yeah, that's what I'm double-checking. I know he is actually friends with Riddler. The whole point, the beauty of it all, you never did consider every option, did you? When all you need to do from the beginning was just follow the clues. That's his theme, of course. Let me see. Find a page, kill. Okay, so he tried to kill Batman. Killed him, he refused. Let's see. Arthur had been following the clues leading him to the Court of Owls. Poisoned corpses of their leaders. Lincoln March. He was in the squad. Where's this kill mentioned? I don't see it. Oh, I see. He sent a mail bomb to the house in front of his daughter, hoping to kill... Okay, so he tries to kill his own daughter, I think.
So he is homicidal. Great.
Let me see.
Because my idea is, like you were saying that possibly through an unrelated incident, my mind said to myself, what if we try to introduce Stephanie Brown in this chapter? It's like, does Stephanie's dad try to ever kill anyone?
Well, here, I'm going to read the direct quote. This is from the DC wiki. This assassination was demanded by Hush on the consequence of failure being Arthur's death instead. Oh, this is... Okay, yeah. In one such meeting, he was meeting up with some people. In one such meeting, he was found out by his daughter. However, in the attempt to kill her for what she knew, Clue Master let her go free, likely not in accordance with his plans. He later tried to have her assassinated upon being told of her whereabouts by his ex-wife, Crystal, but was not successful. This assassination was demanded by Hush on the consequence of failure being Arthur's death instead. Though information was reported otherwise by the thugs he hired, he noted that she was still in fact alive, considering that she was not listed among the dead or injured in the murder reported by the news, and the fact that she had been blogging about him to any who would listen. In light of this, and with his daughter's blogging still not making a serious impact on the community due to his low threat level as a villain, he sent a mail bomb to the house of the friend of his daughter, hoping to kill Stephanie, but ended up only killing said friend due to Stephanie not being at the house at the time. Dude got salty that he was a low-level villain and tried to kill his daughter 3 times!
So we've established he's homicidal. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think what would be...
So, what if he killed the Drakes?
Okay. But why would he kill the Drakes is the question. I mean, hold on. Jack Drake owns a noodle shop and is a police officer. What if Jack Drake arrested Arthur Brown by himself at one point? You know, kind of sell that Clue Master's a bit of a fuck-up villain. And then, as revenge, he blows up Jack Drake, and in the aftermath, also kills Janet Drake.
Well, I mean, they could also just both be in the noodle shop when he bombs it. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. He intended on killing Jack, but as a bonus, in quote, he also killed Janet.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
And that's where Tim's like, who did this? And, you know, because I can actually imagine where Clue Master's low infamy actually kind of gets to an advantage. So he calls Oracle, and Oracle's like, I honestly don't have a clue. Like, the bomb doesn't match anybody else that we have on record. And then...
she says it looks like a knockoff of one of Riddler's old bombs.
Yeah, or something like that, right? And then we get to see him being a detective, trying to figure things out. It's not working. And then he... and then through some process, runs into Stephanie Brown. And Stephanie Brown tells him that it's her dad, who is the villain Clue Master.
I can dig it.
So, Robin versus Clue Master. There we go.
Sure enough. Also, I kind of had the idea that Stephanie is already kind of like through methods of her own, she discovered that her dad is Clue Master and has recently just killed a cop and his wife. And so she took it upon herself to don the mantle of Batgirl.
Spoiler first. Because her plan... Yeah, because the way it works is that the reason why she dons the spoiler costume is because she's spoiling her dad's plans.
Ah.
So there you go. And that also implements Stephanie Brown as a potential playable character. Yay!
Yeah. Expanding the Bat family.
Yas. So that's a really key thing there that is done, and I really dig. And then, of course, it'll bleed into the Red Hood arc.
Yep.
And maybe part of it is that, Stephanie wants to help, but Tim is like, no, this guy's too dangerous. I can take care of it alone. And that's part of the reason why he gets his ass absolutely thrashed.
Yeah. Plus it is Jason Todd, who is one of the... I mean, he's probably the most lethal because he actually kills people, but you know what I mean.
He's also the biggest, so we can roll with that.
Yeah.
He's a hench son of a gun. All right.
He's one of the most dangerous. How about that?
Yeah, that works. So Batgirl's fine. We improved Nightwing. We improved Robin. We improved Red Hood. That just leaves the 2 living sirens, Catwoman and Harley Quinn.
Yeah. And that is if we intend to keep Poison Ivy dead.
That's true. But for the time being, let's just assume that Poison Ivy is still dead.
Fair.
And then we can circle back around and approach that later. Harley Quinn, let's start with her. Her main thing is, her whole thing is that she's gone to Bloodhaven, weird, I know, to bust Poison Ivy out of prison, and she does that while also killing a bunch of cops and beating the shit out of Nightwing. And that takes up about 20 minutes, because it's because it's 2 fights and 2 stealth sequences, one of which has Harley using killer plants as an assist to grab cops so that they get eaten. But
But how do you expand that to about an hour?
Well, that's assuming that you're expanding that same story.
Maybe it's just a flashback, and then we get to go to the present. Quote unquote.
Yeah. I'm thinking that Harley and Catwoman are parts 1 and 2 of a Gotham City Sirens story.
Okay. And they have their independent parts, and then they meet up later.
Yeah.
I like that. So, what is Harley's part? Well, first off, why are they teaming up?
That is a fantastic question. Well, I mean, Catwoman's story in Arkham Knight is her revenge against Riddler, correct?
That's right. She goes to Riddler's hideout and steals all of his money. And destroys his Riddler bot factory.
Well, I mean, that seems like a good place to start.
Do we start with Catwoman, or do we start with Riddler?
Well, I mean, a good place to start as in, like, she wants revenge on Riddler, but maybe he's a little more well dug in for her alone, so she turns to someone who she knows is really good at blowing shit up.
You know what? That can work. That's where they meet up. So that's a tweak to the Catwoman story, where, and I think Harley would show up just in time for the ridiculously hard final round of the Riddler bot fight. I don't know if anybody else has had this much trouble. Like, it is genuinely the hardest fight in the Arkham games, and it's pretty much because it's unfair. Because I think you genuinely have to fight 100 Riddler bots as you're running out of safe space to fight.
Well, then.
As they just keep coming in non-stop. The whole fight itself, like, that whole sequence itself is like 6 minutes of you just beating up metal things. So if Harley shows up, that makes that fight both easier, and you can, play as Harley Quinn and she helps stuff. And then that can lead into the main mission of their story.
Yeah.
Which, what if it's to revive Poison Ivy?
That could be it. That could be a good thing.
Because we know that Harley and Ivy were really, really close. And while she is still fiercely loyal to the Joker in the Arkhamverse, what if Joker's death settles in? It's real. She's never going to get him back. So she thinks about Ivy more, and she's like, I want Red back.
Yeah. And then, lo and behold, a Catwoman shows up saying, hey, you want to blow up Riddler's shit? So how does that tie into reviving Ivy?
Well, let's go back to Harley for a second. Harley saving Poison Ivy is a flashback for Harley's story. Once the thing is done, we flash forward to the present after Batman's dead, and she is initially really happy. She's partying, she's having a good time, because the one she thought, the one who killed her, Mr. J, is dead. And then she crashes hard. Like, it's even a cutscene for the party, and then we cut, for the first gameplay bit, she's up and she is devastated, because 2 of the most important people in her life are dead. She's not getting them back, and she's really sad, and she's really angry. And through fortuitous timing, Catwoman calls.
Yeah.
And then from there, Harley does her thing, and then they find out, while Catwoman is digitally stealing all of Riddler's money, that Riddler has a very strange flower in his collection, which seems very weird, until Harley gets a closer look and she sees a tiny little Poison Ivy face. The flower that was left behind when Ivy sacrificed herself to save Gotham. So they then realize if they can find a way to supercharge the flower's growth, they can get Ivy back. And while Catwoman might be a little iffy on the idea, Harley is all on board and she convinces Catwoman to do so.
Well, it could just be a case of, hey, I just helped you with this shit. You owe me one.
Exactly, and there you go. And that's what convinces Catwoman, because you do not want to owe Harley a favor for long.
Yeah.
So that could be how that works. And I think this is where the DLCs can both exist and branch off, because the whole Ivy thing is still happening, but Catwoman is sneaking into places and finding out the information they need to find the things they need in order to revive Ivy. Harley is the muscle.
Yeah, that checks out.
And then you get some assists, and then as you're revitalizing Ivy, the main big bad is the one who tried to kill Ivy before she became Poison Ivy. One Dr. Jason Woodrue.
I can dig it. I can dig it.
Revived as the Floronic Man.
I can dig it.
And then as you're fighting him and whatnot, guess who and the girls are on their last legs. Guess who helps kick Floronic Man's ass?
Would it be a red-headed plant woman?
You're goddamn right it is.
And when all's said and done, when they're rushing in a good like couple days work, they decide to form the Gotham City Sirens.
Yep, and that's how it ends. Well, for now.
Yeah.
So that pretty much solves the main DLC story issue, which means every playable character in the game gets a DLC story, which that's Babs Girl, that's Jason, that's Azrael, that's Nightwing, Catwoman, Robin, and Harley. So that's the story stuff there fixed for the DLC, and we'll probably end up doing a part 2 where we'll talk about how we will expand gameplay beyond just fixing Arkham Knight, but making it even bigger. But
I did have one more story tweak suggestion, and I think it's one that we both kind of glossed over, but is super important that we talk about because it has affected a lot of people. It's a big hot topic.
what would that be?
Will we give Tim Drake back his hair?
Yes, we absolutely will. And you know how we're going to do it?
How's that?
When he is going into the Red Robin costume, we're like when he's thinking about ideas for the Red Robin costume, we'll get a cutscene where he walks past the mirror, looks, checks his hair, and is like, why the hell did I ever shave it bald? And then cut forward to 2 weeks later, and it'll be short hair, but he has hair.
I was thinking we just completely redo it from scratch, and he has hair from the beginning. But I'm glad that we've resolved the biggest issue of the game. No more bald Tim Drake.
No more Tim Shady.
Tim Shady.
I love Eminem. Come on. Tim Drake was totally ripping off Eminem's style there.
You never thought about this. He totally does. He totally looks like Eminem.
I think it just broke Pharrow. Yay! Okay. So I'm going to give it a minute so that Pharrow can process that. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So the thing with the main missions that we did is that we ended up moving 2 of them to become DLC stories. And we did combine them, their kind of runtime into the calculator, but the calculator being kind of a shorter story mission makes sense, but that also leaves a gap. So what do we put in there? Or who do we put in there?
Well, I mean, the entire idea was that the combined little bit of time that Deacon Blackfire and Elliot, Tommy Boy, got went into calculator, so I feel like if we shoved another character in there arbitrarily, it wouldn't leave a lot of time.
That's true, and besides expanding Arkham Knight, which is the topic for next time, yeah, we can't really do much. We can't really do much. Okay, here's a question. Here's the thing that I want to talk about, and it's the destruction of the Batmobile and then the second Batmobile that shows up. I know why they did the second Batmobile, so you can have the Batmobile in free roam. That makes sense. But it feels kind of sudden for it to show up. So, I mean, like, even just a hint that a second one was being made would have been nice.
I mean, maybe a line or two in the mission leading up to it about a secret prototype being worked on. Maybe, I guess.
Yeah, that. Like, again, it doesn't need to be much, but it's just, it felt too sudden a little bit for there to suddenly be a second tank mobile.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, in comics, Batman has like 100 different Batmobiles at any given time.
Oh yeah, he's got the Batmobile, he's got the Batwing, he's got the Batboat, he's got the Batmarine.
Different Bat vehicles. I mean, legitimately, the guy has multiple Batmobiles.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true too. So,
to me, it's not too crazy that he has an upgraded Batmobile waiting for him.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe just one line that, hey, the prototype is almost ready. Great. Or great. A second one wouldn't hurt. That sort of thing. Let me think.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the Azrael mission?
Honestly, my response to them when I was playing through the game was, these are fine. They're not super standout. They're not the greatest, but they're the kind of thing, like, when I was initially playing through it, they didn't really land with me, but the more I thought about them, I was like, yeah, these are pretty cool. Batman testing Azrael to see if he's worthy of inheriting the mantle, so to speak.
If I remember right, that mission is all combat challenges, though, and I would have really liked it if one or two, like even just adding one or two or replacing one of the combat challenges with a proper stealth challenge would have made more sense as a test.
Yeah, I feel like that was the biggest issue, is they were all the same kind of mission. And they really, like, if this was Bruce Wayne testing Azrael to see if he could inherit the mantle, so to speak, then surely it would be more than just combat.
Yeah, we need to see Azrael be sneaky. So, have Azrael try to be sneaky. As best as you can in what is effectively a souped-up Crusader suit. But yeah, that's probably the main thing I would do. As for, and this is where it gets kind of interesting because it would probably be context dependent. As for what you would do, because Azrael has technically three different endings. Two of them are broadly similar to each other, but like he either breaks the sword that he was going to use to kill Batman, he sets it up as a trophy in Barbara's apartment, which that's kind of funny, or he tries to kill Batman and gets arrested. So my question is, one of two ways to approach this. How do we approach when players make a certain choice and then they get the DLC? Do we just ignore what choice they made and just go with the canon one? Or do we find a way to make subtle implementations? Like, maybe if he did go bad and he's still under the effects of the Order of St. Dumas, Barbara helps him out to break free as like a couple of references of dialogue, or in the beginning. Or if Azrael did the right thing and didn't kill Batman, she thanks him for not killing Batman.
Well, here's the thing about it. Like, I think it's very cool that they offered an opportunity for there to be a player choice that kind of impacted things. But if you really think about it, the choice doesn't really change anything, broad strokes speaking. No matter what you do, Azrael just kind of disappears from the game. Yeah. The only difference is whether or not you see him in prison.
Indeed. So
what I would honestly do is I would remove the choice.
You'd remove the choice. Interesting.
Yeah. I would remove that choice because, like I said, it's like, don't get me wrong, I love player choice in games. I think it's really good when it's well done. This is a case where I don't think the choice really impacts anything. Therefore, there's not really a lot wrong if you remove that choice and just kind of make it one ending.
Sure, and I'm okay with that, and I understand that because it's weird because they did this twice in Arkham Knight where they give you the player choice, but how much does it really impact, right? Because like with Azrael, he's still taken out of the equation for Arkham Knight, and then in the League of Assassins story, you either revive Raish or he dies, and you don't see the consequences of that because Bruce fucking dies.
Yeah. And the League of Assassins story is a different can of worms to open, but for now, what I would honestly say is I would remove the choice and set up the story to better build towards one particular ending.
I think that ending should be the one where Barbara gets to keep the sword, because, I mean, who doesn't want to have a sword in their collection?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that the sword doesn't get destroyed and Barbara just gets to keep it.
Which, now I'm just picturing Barbara fighting off home intruders with Azrael's sword.
I also just picture her, like, looking at the sword, like, when he gives it to her, she's like, so this is the sword you were going to use to kill Batman? Yes. And you're giving it to me? Yes. Okay.
Like, it's at that point in time, too, where Barbara's just like, I can barely deal with you people. All right. So, let's quickly, now since I kind of hinted at this, let's quickly wheel around to the Season of Infamy.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a great little, which these stories, by the way, were supposed to be launch content in Arkham Knight, but they got cut out due to WB interference to make a new deadline.
Yeah.
So,
I think right off of that, it's safe to say, Killer Croc and Mr. Freeze, no changes needed.
absolutely not. I also really like that it's Iron Heights, which is a prison blimp, which is also a Flash reference.
Oh, yeah. Like, fucking so cool.
Yeah, and this kind of leads, there was a canceled Arkham Knight sequel where Gorilla Grodd was going to show up as a character, so it's weird that there's a lot of Flash stuff showing up in Arkham Knight, but I mean, I'm not complaining. Croc was plus that whole story was great. You end up loving to hate the Warden. Croc becomes more sympathetic. Plus, his new design is absolutely horrifying.
Oh yeah,
And
I love everything about this. Anytime a Batman story goes out of their way to show you Killer Croc's scarcely seen sympathetic side, I fucking love it.
Oh yeah, and one thing that's also really cool, the whole thing is a co-op mission with Nightwing.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty unique because even with the Penguin missions, Nightwing really only shows up to help you tag team on some guys. No, Nightwing is with you the whole time, basically.
yeah. Well, it is a more mutated Killer Croc, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just that was just that thing. It's just like, I really like that because that added something that I think should have been more in the game, and that you agree, more sidekick shenanigans, or, you know, more Batman shenanigans just in general.
Yeah, I think, and that just also bleeds into everyone gets free roam. But that's an entirely different discussion, not for this game, not for this video.
Nope, I already talked about it in the last video.
Yeah, you already covered it, and that was my one biggest complaint, aside from Tim Drake's hair, but, you know.
Yeah. But then we come to the ones that we think. Oh yeah, and very quickly we just need to talk about Mr. Freeze. Yeah, it's short, but goddamn, is it sweet?
Yeah, it is like, for me, Mr. Freeze's story is like the perfect sort of idea. Like, it didn't overstay its welcome. It didn't be any longer than it needed to be, and it had a great ending. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's the whole thing with Arkham Knight. The whole theme with Arkham Knight is endings. And Mr. Freeze came out of that a lot better than several other characters in this game, including Batman.
I feel like Mr. Freeze got the best ending out of literally any other character. Let's be real.
Yeah, for sure. So we come to the ones that require fixes. And the League of Assassins probably needs more fixes. So let's start with Mad Hatter.
Yeah. And to be fair to Mad Hatter, I really don't have a lot of problems with it. It's just, compared to everything else, it's just kind of, yeah, it's cool, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very footnotey story. Like, you've got militia people running through the street, Two-Face is robbing banks, Scarecrow is gassing the whole city, and Hatter is kidnapping 3 police officers and trying to brainwash Batman.
Yeah. Not only that, but like, visually speaking, Mad Hatter's story is the most visually distinct, obviously.
Yeah, because once you get to the
compared
story,
to all the other stories, especially compared to like Mr. Freeze's and Killer Crocs and Season of Infamy, it's not a lot going on there. It's just like, yeah, this is cool, I guess.
Exactly. So the tricky thing is that what do you do to like improve upon it? Because it's pretty tight and it works pretty well. It's just, how do you improve it?
Here's my thinking. You don't. Like, the thing is, like, I don't think there's really a way to improve it without drawing too much attention to it or doing something really crazy that probably would be more divisive than outright improvement. And my thinking is, yeah, it's kind of filler, but it's not bad filler.
Yeah, it's the kind of filler that's like, yes, please.
Yeah, and it's like we said, it's not bad, it's good, it's enjoyable, it's visually distinct, and it's like, I feel like that's all it really needs to be. It doesn't really need to be super spectacular, especially with what it's lined up against.
Exactly. And honestly, the only thing I think I would add, it's a very small thing, but I think there should be a slight hint as to Riddler's true plan, or to the true plan for Mad Hatter, and it's very slight. But what if you listen, like, you wouldn't even get subtitles for this, but if you would listen very closely throughout the game as you're continuing this mission, you start hearing Alice in Wonderland quotes and references just very faintly in the distance.
I can get behind that.
Just that little bit more that makes you think, wait a minute, is Mad Hatter fucking with me? Oh yes, he is!
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I would add as well is just little things, because other than that, it's, well, yeah, it's just filler, but it's really good filler, so not much needs to be changed. Which then, of course, leads into the one that probably needs a few changes.
Yeah, the League of Assassins.
Yeah. I was not a big fan of this. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fair enough. But the story they come up with, the choice in the end, like, I think the only thing that I remotely liked was the choice in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Nyssa, right, as like and I do like the idea that there's like a rebellion within, but like, I think when Batman shows up, they should look at him and go, he's the real problem. Because thanks to Batman's interference, Nyssa doesn't have a sister, and Talia doesn't have, and, well, there you go, Raish doesn't have a daughter. Well,
yeah.
One daughter short.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like the entire story there, and this is not a slight against the people who wrote this, because clearly the writers for Arkham Knight had a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
But, I feel like the entire League of Assassins, like, Civil War story and all that was just kind of half-baked. Like, they had an idea, they kind of fleshed it out a little bit, but it doesn't really feel like it belongs in everything else.
It didn't have enough time to settle, basically.
Yeah, they didn't, I don't feel like they ironed it out enough. They didn't make it feel like it should be a part of Arkham Knight. The only thing that remotely fits the themes of Arkham Knight is the choice whether or not to spare or to revive or kill Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, to revive or condemn him.
Yeah. That's the only thing that remotely fits. It's like, yeah, the Civil War storyline is cool, it's a neat idea, but again, it just doesn't really lead anywhere. For me, it just felt like the entire storyline just felt like an excuse to get you to the point where you could either revive or choose not to save Ra's al Ghul.
Indeed. You know, pull up Batman Begins, but in a way that actually kind of makes sense.
Ooh, throwing shade at one of my favorite movies. That's fair. That is one of the weirdest parts of that movie.
Yeah. Anywho, so ironing it out, making it make a little more sense, yes, I would definitely be down for that.
The question is, how would you do that? Because just, like, metaphorically looking at it, it's like, how do I touch this?
Okay.
How do I...
Let's very quickly run through what happens, because this I am starting to get some memories on. So you get, I think you get tipped off about some weird shit going on at the hospital. You go to the hospital and there's bodies. Oh no,
Yeah.
I remember what it is. You find a poster with a knife in it, for like advocation of the League of Assassins and whatnot, and you follow a blood trail to a dead assassin. And then you find some clues, and it leads you into the hospital, where you find Ra's al Ghul, and realize what's going on. Nyssa tells you what's going on, and she tells you to destroy it, but you could also use it to rejuvenate Ra's. It's a fresh Lazarus source. So, and then Batman sprays with explosive gel so that we can have the decision made. And then you come back, fight through, you get to the thing, and then you make your choice, and then things go from there. Ra's gets revitalized and kills Nyssa, which is a bit of an odd decision considering that I imagine he would be much more upset at Batman for having Talia killed, but whatever. Or you condemn Ra's and Nyssa becomes the new head of the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
Which
And
is,
see, that, I feel like that's where I feel like the disconnect is. Because they want to make a big deal about Talia's death, but there really isn't a big deal. It's more about Ra's being a shitty dad to his other daughter.
Exactly. Which I think what could happen here is that they appeal to Bruce feeling guilty about Talia. What if they did that? Like, that would be a great place to start. It's like, hey, but like Nyss is like, hey, you want to make up for the fact that you killed my fucking sister? Make sure Ra's doesn't get a chance to revive, and we'll be even. And Ra's...
Well, I mean, that's kind of what she does, if I'm remembering correctly. She does kind of, like, poke the wound a little bit there.
Yeah, but she doesn't poke deep enough, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I said, I feel like the Civil War storyline is cool, but I don't know. I feel like the story should be more about the repercussions of Talia's death than any sort of Civil War storyline, if you know what I mean.
Like, Ra's death is more important than just the Civil War thing?
Well, no, Talia's death, more specifically. I feel like that it should be more about that.
Okay. And they have their competing ideologies, and it almost explodes into Civil War. And then Batman's like, enough! I will make my decision now. Cue decision.
Maybe. Because it does bring up the question of, like, surely they would blame Bruce for Talia's death. Like, surely they would. And it's like, if they do, why don't they attack him?
Which would then... What if we make a slight adjustment to this? What if Nyssa is loyal to Ra's only because Bruce killed Talia? And the choice comes, like, you can choose to rejuvenate or condemn Ra's. And if you choose to rejuvenate Ra's, Ra's promises to get the League off of your back because, you may have killed Talia, but you revived Ra's, and then they leave. But if you choose to condemn Ra's, it's a 100 versus 1 against the League.
I can get behind that. The only thing I would add to that is, because I don't want to diminish Nyssa's role any, I don't want to diminish her role any. So what if, because I can still imagine, even though Talia's dead, and Ra's would obviously be very pissed about that, I imagine his angle would be, okay, now you need to face penance for that and join the League of Assassins. You know, do a little light assassination for me, and we're even. Join me, rejuvenate me, and join me.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. Something to that effect, like, because ultimately Rich's goal is still to have Batman as his successor.
Yeah.
Just something to that effect. And Nissa is just more like kill happy. She just wants revenge.
Yep.
And I feel like there should almost be like two endings. Not as in like you choose one or the other, because there would probably still be that. But I feel like there should be two quote-unquote endings for the two characters. There's the ending for Raish and there's the ending for Nissa.
Okay.
One where I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. It's difficult, but the ending for Nissa is whether or not you help her let go of her rage.
All right. I like
because, as you pointed out, and would make a lot of sense, the only reason she's still loyal to Raish is because of Talia's death, and she wants revenge on Batman. So the story for her could be whether or not she lets go of that rage and then goes on to do any sort of civil war against her father.
Yeah.
And then for Raish, you get the revive or not revive.
That works for me. Like, it would be, and they would kind of be, you have a halfway ending, which would be for Nissa, and then you have the big ending for Raish.
Yeah. I do feel like if you choose to help Nissa let go of her rage, and then she goes on to start the civil war against the other side of the League of Assassins, and then revive Raish, you're kind of playing both sides.
Well, let the players have that option.
Well, it is also totally something I see Bruce doing. I feel like he would absolutely revive Raish, if only because of the no-kill rule.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, and I kind of like that they try to play with that morality a little bit, maybe play with it a little bit more too, but...
Yeah, that's always an option, just play more into killing versus let die, whether Bruce would revive Raish in this situation. It all depends.
Precisely. Okay. We've got about 15 minutes before we hit the optimal time to end, but I did also give myself about an extra half an hour if we need to talk a little bit more. Riddler.
Oh, Mr. Nigma.
Okay. I want to applaud Rocksteady for one thing. One thing for Riddler. They did not add many more. They did not add riddles. They removed them. Because in Arkham Asylum, it was 240 riddles. Then for Arkham City, it was 440. 400 for Batman, 40 for Catwoman.
Yeah.
And lastly, for Arkham Knight, or I don't remember how many it was for Arkham Origins, but that's a different studio, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Lastly, for Arkham Knight, it's 243.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that they didn't, because I was genuinely afraid that they were going to be like, let's have 600 riddles. We have a map 5 times the size of Arkham City, which means it's 25 times the size of Arkham Asylum. Let's cram it full of riddles. I'm like, thank God you didn't do that.
Yeah. I do think that is more of a gameplay thing. So what I feel like, in terms of the story element that Enigma brings, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something to think about, for sure. But the thing is that I like the idea that this is basically Riddler snapping and trying to kill Batman, or trying to hurt Batman a lot, and the whole Catwoman thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, it reminded me of a fan song by Miracle of Sound about Arkham Knight, and the lyrics, "Wit for pace, this riddle's just a race." And I'm like, thank you for surmising in 2 lines my biggest problem with the Riddler's whole shebang that I could rant for like 30 minutes on. Why were the main parts of the riddles that were connected to making sure Catwoman doesn't get suicide squatted was racist? I understand the emphasis on the Batmobile. If you wanted to have emphasis on the Batmobile relating to the Riddler, you could do 3 separate challenges because there's 9 different teams. 3 races, 3 like platformy type challenge things, and 3 combat scenarios.
Yeah. That is something that I do feel like they overemphasize. Like, granted, it is the major selling point of the game, the Batmobile being usable.
But they could have done it.
They did overemphasize it. They were like, oh, everything has to be involving the Batmobile. Not really.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I like the idea of the different types of Batmobile challenges, but like, even if it was like 3 each, that would be too much. So like, we could do 1 of each. 1 race, 1, like, let's test the horsepower of that ostentatious ego-mobile versus that is pretty nimble Batman, but let us see it navigate this. And then, okay, I've had enough. I'm destroying that thing. And then it's just, you're the Batmobile, but you're fighting mechs. You're fighting Riddler mechs.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be perfect. Like, and I feel like that would play more into the Riddler's devolving, so to speak. He's not caring about riddles anymore. He just wants blood.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, it starts off relatively jovial, and steadily throughout, as you're solving the riddles, of course, he's getting more and more distressed until eventually you solve all the riddles, and he comes onto the floor in a goddamn mech suit. It's like,
I have words about that mech suit.
well, you've got
I have words, and I'm going to say them. I fucking hate that mech suit. I hate that the Riddler's goons are robots. I hate that his boss fight is a mech suit. Because, yes, Edward Nygma is smart. That is a given. He is a very intelligent individual. Intelligence does not necessarily equate to advanced robotics knowledge.
Or Riddler has been able to keep up with Batman when he was juiced up on Lazarus Juice, and he has access to a weaponized cane. Make it like the quote-unquote Joker fight in Arkham City, where you're fighting Joker and his thugs in a hazard-filled arena.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. It's like, Riddler has goons! Like, that's the thing about the Riddler. Criminals like him because he's smart.
And he pays them pretty well, from what I hear.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like just hearkening over to The Batman, granted it came out much later, but he does have a little cult following him. Like, people who respect his intelligence and think that, oh, he's going to lead us.
And what's more, he has, or had, I haven't seen them in a while, but he's had 2 potent female sidekicks in Echo and Query.
Yeah, Query and Echo.
Which, perfect sub-bosses.
Yeah, who could also show up in the freaking Gotham City Sirens story with Harley being like, the hell?
Yeah, that could work. You know what would actually be funny, now that I'm thinking about it?
Yeah.
Query and Echo setting up the riddles for the Gotham City Sirens to solve, and then once you solve them all, they show up. But also, there are 2 characters from Arkham Origins that would almost be perfect for the Query and Echo role.
Yeah.
Tracy and Candy.
I'm not Arkham Origin, so.
Okay, so I'll make it as quick and non-spoilery as possible. Candy and Tracy are 2 of Penguin's lieutenant administrative assistant hybrids, basically. They run a lot of the operations for Penguin.
Okay, that makes sense. But alas, Riddler's shtick. Like, that was my biggest gripe about the Riddler thing in Arkham Knight is all the robots. Like, I get it. The dude is smart. He's very clearly intelligent, and he has a lot of expertise in engineering. That engineering expertise does not necessarily equate to freaking combat robots.
Indeed not, unless he's getting the software from elsewhere.
Unless he's importing them from frickin' LexCorp.
Or calculators helping him out.
Maybe, I don't know. But I still don't like the robots, and I would much rather he just had Riddler goons.
Yeah. Also, I feel like they had... It's weird because the instant takedown animations on the robots are much more savage than they are on people. Like, Batman is ripping out control components, slamming them down, stomping on their heads. Selina is stomping on their spines, tearing out their throats with her claws. It's like, did you just make them robots so that you can have an excuse to show Selina and Batman killing people, in quote?
I'm guessing. But yeah, I feel like that was my biggest fucking gripe was...
So many robots!
Yeah, the robots. I do not like the Riddler robots. Give him normal goons.
I'm in. Let's see. You know what would be swifty? Let's quickly go back to the militia-specific missions because they're filler, but they're the right kind of filler, for the most part.
Yeah,
but
real quick, before we leave the topic of the Riddler, I just had a thought for, like, as you're progressing through the riddles to get the keys to free Selina, I think it would be hilarious, because if we do switch over to Riddler goons instead of the Riddler bots, like, as you're progressing through the riddles and getting more and more keys, like, as you're stealth approaching the different riddle locations, you could occasionally hear his goons be like, does the boss seem alright to you? Seems like he's kind of losing it.
Yes! This was another thing I talked about in the video, but it was for the playable characters, but more villain banter, more thug banter is never going to hurt my feelings.
Oh yeah, the Arkham thug banter is fucking amazing. I love it.
Same here.
That is probably one of my favorite bits about the game series. It's just hearing the thugs talk.
Yeah, and I think it would be...
Just turn around right now and saw the bat!
It's the freaking bat! Oh, jeez. Yeah, I love it.
Anyway, the militia missions.
Yeah, I think they're, for the most part, fine. And I do like that, for the mines in particular, and the ABC chases in particular, they get harder like they're adapting. But I think it would be kind of cool if the checkpoints and the watchtowers did the same thing. Because you can approach them in any order at any time and they'll have the same setup. But, you know, if they just had that adaptive difficulty, that would help sell the militia a little bit more.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that. I feel like as you take down more and more checkpoints, they start flooding more and more resources into the remaining ones until to the point where when you get to the last one, it's like, the fuck is this, Fort Knox?
Yeah, you go there and it's like, 4 brutes, 7 medics, 25 normal guys, 10 sword dudes, and 3 drones that are just parked there in a checkpoint. And it's like, and you have to sit there and go, man, this is going to require some serious thought. And then you can hear the thugs being like, this is the last checkpoint, everybody be ready.
Yeah, I also had the thought, and this is bleeding more into gameplay, but I feel like this is something I did want to point out. I feel like, on militia missions in particular, I feel like the longer you take to beat them, the harder they should get.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Like, I feel like when fighting the militia, you have to almost be like a guerrilla fighter. You have to hit them lightning quick and get out just as fast. Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to get wise to your tricks, and they're just going to it's going to get a lot harder.
And you have to also do sabotage things too, which I really like. But the gameplay stuff is fine because it is fine if it also is story related. Like this things get harder over time thing for the Arkham Knight goons. That plays into the story because it sells the Arkham Knight as a threat.
Yeah.
Let's see, story-wise. I think that's really about it. I was kind of worried, so I kind of gave us an extra half hour just to be safe, but I don't think there's anything else that we really need to cover. Wait a minute, I think we forgot to talk about exactly what... No, wait, we moved Hush into Nightwing, right.
Yeah. I feel like that's about it. Like, we can probably go on and on about very specific story changes we'd make. But I think broad strokes in terms of talking about fixing the narrative and making it flow better, I feel like we kind of hit all the bases.
Yeah, make Arkham Knight the main villain, make the militia scarier, don't make Babs so stupid. Don't make Babs stupid for the sake of the story, make the Arkham Knight smart. That's the ethos I was trying to get away with there. Fix the Killing Joke reference to make it more accurate to the comics, which, as much as I'm wishy-washy on the Killing Joke itself, if you're gonna adapt it right, Bruce Tim. We gave the 2 shittiest side missions more love by making them DLC.
Yeah.
We buffed the DLC overall.
We completely fleshed out the DLCs into something greater, and we got a friggin' Red Robin versus Red Hood fight.
Yep.
Which I pretty swish.
And we also gave Azrael a DLC story, which he did not have, which he deserved. And we fixed... Actually, real quick, there is one thing. I wasn't sure if we did enough for this guy, but do you feel like Professor Pig is fine?
I briefly talked about it. I was like... it was back when we were talking about, like... who was the other person we were talking about? It was Man-Bat. I said Man-Bat and Professor Pig, I really wouldn't change anything. I felt they were fine. I felt like... I liked the detective story for Professor Pig. I thought his boss fight was fine. I felt like overall, Professor Pig doesn't really need to be touched on. He's good. He's good.
Oh, I know what we could touch on, just real quick. We could probably touch on Two-Face and Penguin.
Ooh, true.
Because Penguin and Two-Face have 2 different problems that we can solve pretty quickly. Penguin has the one thing that I don't think Two-Face has, which is because with Two-Face, you're going at it pretty much solo. Whereas with Penguin, you have Nightwing helping you out. Now, for story reasons, Robin isn't really around for some of these, but I genuinely think that for the Two-Face side missions, you should be working with Robin, especially if it's at that point where Robin and Batman's relationship is kind of rocky, so they take down Two-Face together to make up a little bit.
Yeah. I can agree with that, and I feel like that's something probably going to be touched on more in the expanding Arkham Knight to make it bigger and better.
I'll be up in 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like in terms of that's more something that's going to be covered in expanding Arkham Knight to make it bigger and better. But yeah, I feel like Robin popping up during Two-Face missions would make a lot of sense. Penguin story.
And that would also help, sorry, I just have to say real quick, and that would also help with Robin's thing because it gives Robin a reason to go after Two-Face.
Yeah. But more than that, the only thing I would say, I feel maybe we already said this, but I just covering in case we didn't. I feel like Two-Face, Penguin, and Ivy, who was broken out by Harley, I feel like their little schemes, their little plottings, completely separate from what the fuck the Arkham Knight is doing.
That was one of the first things you mentioned with the Arkham Knight. Just make them separate individuals.
Yeah, have them have their own schemes.
Yeah.
With the Arkham Knight also half targeting them with his main focus being Batman.
Yeah, he's half-heartedly like, if you see them, deal with them, but the Bat's priority 1.
Yeah.
And I think...
And then for one last thing I would add, like in terms of adding anything, I know I should have probably said this back when we were talking about now that we've nixed Tommy and Deacon Blackfire and put them in the DLC, and we've only implemented Calculator, what else should we do? But I just thought of it, so one extra character to throw into the mix. Friggin' Black Mask.
Ooh, set up Sionis for the Red Hood thing.
Yeah.
What if Sionis is the one robbing banks then? Because it seems weird that Two-Face is robbing banks. And then give Two-Face give Two-Face a different crime to do, and then I would also make Two-Face's thing more Bruce Bat connected.
Yeah, that can make sense. That makes sense.
What do we do for
Sionis is robbing banks to rebuild his criminal empire now that Joker's gone.
Yep. And then Two-Face is just causing trouble. He's trying to divide the city in 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
really actually I just thought of something. I don't know if you're gonna go for it, but Two-Face is trying to set up a new government in the midst of the anarchy.
I like that, actually. That really works. And then Batman appeals to that, and Two-Face just gives himself up.
Yeah. He's trying to set up a new martial law in a city in anarchy, trying to set up and preserve the peace.
Yup. And then just before I go, because dinner is done, so right on time. What do you do? What do you do with Penguin?
What do I do with Penguin? Cobblepot's fine. Don't really change anything. Just maybe have Dick do more.
That's fine with me. And that's going to do it for this part. I think I'll upload this tomorrow. Maybe we'll see. And it's a long weekend for me this week, so Monday. Do you want to do part 2?
Monday? Yeah, sure.
Sweet.
I'm good.
And that will be when we expand Batman for part 3. Don't forget to be awesome, my friends, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
Yeah!